Good morning, sir.
So strength is 27 only, okay. Hope people are joining. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
So today's class uh, we are going to discuss about the capillarity. So only 31 people are there. Uh, I think people will join. So we will not wait for them, okay. If we keep on waiting for them, we cannot finish our syllabus. So this capillarity, what is this coming? So capillarity water, this is the seventh chapter, okay. So we are going to discuss this particular chapter. Here, what is the capillary water? Do you have any idea? Can anyone explain me?
The rise of water due to the adhesive forces.
Yeah, what is happening is now here we are discussing about the soil, right? Soil mechanics. So have you observed while walking in at the beach? First, you will encounter with the dry sands. After that, a little wet sand. Okay, and then a beach. So what is happening is, so water is coming up. You can say not only beach, wherever you see, if you find very fine silt or a sand, fine sand. Okay, so water will try to rise, which forms a small tube kind of arrangement. Okay, in that it will try to rise up. Okay, so this is called the capillarity water. So soil mechanics, since we are discussing about the soil mechanics, so this will also affect our strength, effective stress, what is there in the soil, okay, and so on. So we need to understand this phenomena, what is this capillarity water is all about, okay. So till now what we have seen is, first we have seen the origin of the soil, okay, how the soil originated, maybe from the physical disintegration or physical weathering, and the chemical weathering like acceleration, hydration, and all. In physical weathering, we have seen that sandy soil or cohesionless soil would be formed, and in the case of chemical weathering, clay soil would be formed. After that, we have seen that uh, soil we have divided into three-phase system. Okay, that means when you take a soil uh, which is partially saturated, which contains air, water, and the solids. So this particular uh, phase, I mean, we have just for our convenient, we have just divided into three-phase system. From that, we have found some formulas. Okay, we have derived some formulas by which we can find out whether it may wide ratio or porosity, or you can say densities, water contents, specific gravity, and so on. Okay. After that, we have classified the soil. If you recall, so last chapter we have classified the soil. Classification based on the grain size, yes. Okay. So like CO analysis, and we say that which is coarse soil and the fine grained soil, coarse grained soil, fine grained soil. In the coarse grained soil, we have sand and the gravel. In the fine grained soil, we have clay and the silt. So how it is classified, okay, based on the grain sizes. Not only grain sizes, we have seen that fine grained soil classification, okay. So based on the plasticity chart, and we have seen the unified soil classification and the Indian standard classification, how we classified based on the based on the plasticity chart. So that depends on the liquid limit, plastic limit, shrinkage limit. We know that if we know the liquid limit, plastic limit, shrinkage limit, or plasticity index, and by using a plasticity chart, okay, uh, we can easily find out the where the soil, which kind of soil it is, okay, whether it is a gravelly, sandy gravel, and some dual symbol also we have seen it, okay. Hope you are reading those things. So till now what we have done is, and we have also seen the minerals in the clay soil, like montmorillonite mineral, kaolinite, illite, and so on in the clay type of soil. So those minerals also you can focus on. The structures also we have seen the soil structures like honeycomb structures, dispersed structures, flaky kind of behavior of the clay soil, okay, flaky, and so on. So almost we understood the soil exactly, and we have classified the soil. We are able to find the index properties of the soil, like liquid limit, plastic limit, shrinkage limit, and so on. And some indices also we have seen: consistency index, liquidity index, plasticity index, toughness index, flow index. So that these indices also will help us, okay, for classifying. Also, we have also seen the sensitivity, thixotrophy of behavior, and so on. So you try to understand these things, okay. There are so many good videos are available. So today's class we'll see something about the capillary water, okay. What it is, this capillarity is all about, okay. So this particular capillary water, uh, hope it is visible, right? You are audible. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this capillary water is, you can see that in the ground, there would be water table, right, constant somewhere below the ground, and above that soil is very moist. Why? Because this, from the water table, there would be some water, okay, which, because of this capillarity phenomena, rises, okay. So up to certain depth, that particular water is called the capillary water. Again, that will damages our foundations and so on, okay. So here, that's what it is given, okay. uh, then one more term is called the surface tension. So what is the surface tension is all about is, suppose if you take a water body, okay, on that there would be small surface, I mean, just atmospheric pressure, or you can say, you take a small pond, or you can take a small lake, or okay. So on the top of this water, there would be a layer, okay, which is in complete small, which bears little, I mean, load also. Load in the sense, how our insects are able to walk on this water. This is all because of surface tension, okay. So that's what it is given, mentioned here. So surface tension is you can say, uh, small surface which is in a tension and in a layer on the water, which holds little strength, okay. I mean, that's why the small leaves will try to float on that, and because of that only small insect will try to work on that. Okay, that particular layer is called the surface tension. Okay, next that is not our topic now. Next come to this capillary rise in a small tube. Now what we'll do is so as I said, below the water table is constant. Okay, that is a water level where you could find the water table, and above 1 meter of that water table you could find that water will try to come up because of this capillarity. Water will tries to rise. Okay, because of the adhesion and the cohesion and the inter particular small voids which is formed because of the soil. Okay, so this what we do is to read this one or understand this one. We will take a small tube. Okay, that's what it is shown. So small tube, below one is the water table here, and this water will try to rise it up. Okay, that is HC here. Okay, and in the tube you could see that it won't be horizontal. Okay, there because of the adhesion, this will here the water would be in a conical form. Understand? Now, we can derive something from this one. Okay, this you can derive something from this one. This is because this is because uh, this is the you can say Fu. Let us assume something. Fu is the upward pull due to the surface tension. So T is the surface tension. Okay, and upward force. How we can write the force here? You can, if you resolve this Ts, vertical will be Ts cos theta. Okay, horizontal Ts sin theta. Okay, so we are worrying about the vertical only. So upward pull due to the surface tension would be Ts cos theta, and periphery. Okay, pi d, periphery of the tube is pi d. That gives the force. Okay, here Ts surface tension and the d is the diameter. Let us take a small diameter d, and Ts is the surface tension. Okay. Now, what we are doing is we are just equating the resolving the forces upward and the downward, like we have seen in the engineering mechanics. Okay. So upward force is equal to downward force due to the mass of the water in the tube. So mass of the water means whole mass of the water. Okay. So how you can get it whole mass? We can get it once you know the unit weight. Okay, unit weight of the water or water pressure multiplied by Hc multiplied by pi d square whole area, right? That will give the downward force due to the mass of the water, Fd. Understand? Gamma w hc means here. Okay, here would be equal to the uh, then we have to multiply the area pi d square by 4, which will give the downward force. So always we should equate the forces, not the stresses. Okay, so always try to equate the force. Upward force is equal to downward force. That's what it is given. Okay, so like that if you do it you can find out the surface tension. So when you try to equate it here, finally what you will get it here, this particular equation you will get it. Okay, so this particular equation you will get it, and substituting this one, and code says the surface tension would be generally 0.073 Newton per meter. Okay, this is standard. Okay, so and unit weight if you take it, finally what you will get it, this equation you will get it. Here what we do is for a clean glass tube and the pure water, the meniscus is approximately hemisphere, then theta is equal to 0 here. Okay, when theta equal to direct vertical you can take it. So likewise you will get here this equation finally. Hc equal to 0.3 divided by dcm. This is very, very important equation. Okay, sometime ask in the all competitive exam, gate exam and so on. What is this Hc? That's what we are going to find out. Okay, how much depth it will rises. Okay, if ts is a surface tension. So how we can find out? That is inversely proportional to the diameter, 1 by d, is it not? Hc is inversely proportional to diameter. If the diameter is increasing, then hc should reduces. Understand? If the diameter is small, hc will be more. That is common sense, right? Is it not? If the diameter is very small, then in the tube the capillary water will rises at a greater height. If the diameter increases, then what is happening? It reduces. The hc would reduce. So that's what it is given. That's why they will ask in all competitive exams. Sometimes they will give d and ask you to find hc. Well, how we can find out? 0.3 divided by hc will d will give the hc value. Understand? So water may be meter or centimeter, we can convert whatever is there in the d. Both can be centimeter or both can be meter. So likewise, this particular equation is very important. The capillarity tube, or what we have done is we have assumed one tube, but in the practical it may not be vertical tube like, okay. So for approximate analysis, we assume that when the water is rising like in a soil like a tube, okay, and we are able to find out this Hc, how much it will rise, okay. That's what it is given. Both D1, D2, these diameters are given. Look at here. Here, what is happening is, if the diameter is increasing, here there's no rise in water. This much only rise. Diameter increase, it stopped rising. But in the case of this one, uh, suppose you fill the tube with this much, okay. Then what happens here? There may be chances of this one, surface tension. Understand? So what is happening is this diameter really affects the capillarity behavior of a soil. That means it depends on the voids, the voids of the soil. So now I will ask you one question. So which soil will have more capillarity? Uh, can you answer this question? So till we have seen that how we can classify the soil. We know the classification of the soil. So which soil will may have more capillarity water?
हाँ हाँ पूरा
Can
तो तू लिया
Sir, please.
clay? Any other answers? Anyone? No. Which soil may have more capillarity? Rice. So no idea.
Sir, clay soil only.
See what? Can we imagine the clay? There is a rise in water in the clay. Clay, that's what that means. You have not understood the how the clay looks like and how. See, clay will absorb some water, right, with electric uh, which it has electric charges on the surfaces, okay. It try to absorb the water. It will not allow water to rise. It will try to hold the water, and that's the reason water content of the clay is very high, okay. You cannot imagine clay, in the clay there would be capillarity rising or something because it is having some minerals, okay. uh, because of that it will try to hold the water. That's what we have learned till now. Okay, that means clay will try to hold the water. That's the reason the liquid limit, plastic limit, sinkage limit we are able to conduct because it is holding some water in it. That's why it becomes soft, medium, and the hard consistency. Soft means very soft. We have seen that how much to do the consistency for the soft, medium, and hard. Here for formation of the tube, uh, very fine sand or silt, okay, cohesionless soil, very fine, which have a lesser diameter. In that soil, there is a more possibility of formation of this particular uh, capillarity. That's why I have given the example of beach. Okay, so or that's what. So more clay content, there can be little clay content. There is no problem. But if it is more fully clay soil and all, then what is happening is it will try to hold the water. There won't be any capillarity there. Okay, that's the reason. Uh, So have you seen the particular in the beach? People will try to make some what do you say? They're trying to form something. One guy is there, right? You remember what is his name? Patnaik in Odisha, which will try to make some design by using this sand or okay beach sand. You know about him? One artist called Patnaik. I think Patnaik
Yes,
only
sir,
his name.
heard of him.
Right, from Odisha. So for all occasion he will try to draw and he plays with the sand. Okay, the beach. He is very good artist. Okay, so the why it is happening because of the capillarity water only. Whatever you could see there. So small thin layer. Okay, where it there you could see in the fine sand. Okay, and moreover. So what one more capillarity tension here, this particular capillarity water, okay, pressure always would be in tension here. Okay, suppose if you take a water, so how do generally you find out this pressure of a water? Suppose we have h depth, okay, uh, from the atmospheric pressure, okay, we have a lake, okay, lake or a pond or a glass of water, whatever may be, tube of water. I want to find out the pressure at the at a depth of h. How we can find out the pressure at the depth of h? How we can find out unit weight of the water multiplied by the depth where exactly we want. Am I right? How you can see, how you can find out that? That's how we generally find out, right? So, top would be atmospheric pressure. Below that, unit weight of the water multiplied by the depth where you want exactly. Understand? So, this is our datum. Suppose this is our free surface atmospheric pressure. This is the tube. So, here what I'm trying to tell you is because of the capillarity uh, tension, the soil, sorry, the water pressure would be the water in the capillary tube is under negative pressure. The water in a capillary tube is under negative pressure, commonly called tension. Okay. So this would be gamma into H, but minus. Here minus we are writing it. Hc is the, you can say, the rise of the water in the reverse direction. Or you can say this complete water is in a tension. That's why we calling it capillarity tension also. Okay. That is in a negative pressure multiplied by h. Suppose h is here, E point means small h. If it is at the A, at the B, or you can say it will be Hc multiplied by the unit weight of the water. Hope you are following. So this particular capillarity tension is in the negative pressure, always in a negative pressure. Here atmospheric pressure, below that positive. Again, suppose if I want to measure the positive pressure here from here, the whatever depth multiplied by unit weight will give the pressure at that particular depth. Even for the soil also, how generally you measure the pressure? Suppose on a ground pressure is zero. Suppose if you assume, so below the ground there would be some pressure, right, on the soil. The overburden pressure or surcharge pressure, whatever we are working, we are constructing a building, and so on. So how generally you find out this total pressure at the bar at a depth Z or H below the ground? How generally you find out? Unit weight of soil multiplied by the that particular depth where exactly you want to find out. Is it not? Unit weight, the what is it? Units of the unit weight, kilonewton per meter cube, multiplied by the H will give the kilonewton per meter square pressure. Understand? Or you call it as a stress, total stress. But here in the soil, which unit weight we have to multiply, that is more important, right? That's we have seen so many unit weights. Whether we have to multiply the dry unit weight or a bulk unit weight or a submerged unit weight or a saturated unit weight, that is that we are going to study in effective stress chapter. Understand? If the soil is bulk or partially saturated, then gamma you multiply the H will give the total stress at the bottom of the ground, unit weight gamma into H. If it is fully saturated, then gamma saturated multiplied by H. If it is dry, gamma dry multiplied by H. Understand? So likewise, we can find out the total stress below the soil or below the water. Or okay, how generally we find out? Once we know the unit weight of the water or unit weight of the soil, that multiplied by the depth where exactly we want the pressure or a stress. Okay, unit weight, units of the unit weight is kilonewton per meter cube multiplied by the H will give the pressure, or you can say total stress, or you can say uh, whatever you feel your hand. Suppose you are keeping your hand just depth H below the ground level, you would feel some pressure, right? That pressure would be unit weight of that particular soil multiplied the H. That's what is I've been trying to explaining you. Okay, but only difference is which gamma we have to density we have to multiply, whether it is saturated or a dry or a submerged or a bulk. So this already we have seen. Okay, so what is asked that you have to multiply it. Understand? So likewise, for a soil or for a water, suppose I want to find out the pressure at a depth Z or a H, how we can find out? Unit weight of that particular material, either water or a soil multiplied by the depth H. What I'm trying to explain you is here in the surface, sorry, in the case of capillarity rise, the particular water or would be in a negative pressure. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, negative here because it is under suction. Okay, so what is happening is the complete water would be in a tension, so that's why here you could find the negative pressure. Okay, so that's what it is given and you can go through it. So here what is happening is there are some people who Tirjak and Peck has given one formula, H max, okay, maximum height of rise can also be written in this way. Okay, and there are tables given here which soil will have more, you can say, uh, height of capillarity rise. As you said, clay will have more, and as I said that anyway diameter is matter, but thing is again the depend on the clay, which type of clay it is. Okay, here based on the diameter it is given that as the diameter reduces, Okay, and the capillarity rises. Okay, for the fine gravel because the diameter is high 0.02 meter and so on. With the clay, it is increasing. But in the case of clay, what happens is again the what kind of clay it is. Okay, clay holds lot of water. Okay, um, whether that particular particular mineral is there or not. Okay, or some clay doesn't hold much water. Okay, in that case there may be chances of uh, raising the capillarity. But generally you find in the fine sand and silt, generally you find because there won't be you can say absorbed water. Understand? Absorb water to the sand particles or silt particles. So silt and sand doesn't have any cohesiveness. That's why it is a cohesionless. But clay is having cohesive strength. So again, depending on the soil, what kind of clay it is. So it is given like based on this one, you could see the rise of the uh, capillarity. Okay, so it means that even if it is having clay also, what is happening is, uh, suppose water table may be at the bottom somewhere, and there you could find the clay, moist clay at the top. Moist clay. Why? Because of the capillary retention. Understand? So it is inversely proportional to the diameter. That you should remember. Okay. So with that, what I will do is this is nothing. Suction is not required for you. Uh, just want to show some very good video. So after teaching, we'll have some video. So always it would be better for you to understand. Okay. So one video is very enough for you. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
A soil mass is composed of
Is it audible also?
small solid
Audible?
particles
Yes, sir.
called the soil grains. These soil grains A soil mass is composed of small solid particles, which we call the soil grains. These soil grains, when depositing in a soil mass, arranges themselves in a way that some amount of empty space is enclosed between them. We call these spaces voids. When rainfall occurs on this soil surface, the rainwater percolates through these voids and flows down through the soil under the influence of gravity. This water under the ground surface exists in two forms. One is free water and another one is held water. Free water is groundwater that moves inside the soil under the influence of gravity. So it is also called gravitational water. It completely fills and saturates the voids present in the soil. To measure the level of free water underground, we make observation wells into the ground. The level up to which the underground water rises in the well is the level of free water. This level is called groundwater table. The water present at the water table experiences atmospheric pressure, and below this level, pressure on the water increases with the depth, and all the water present in the voids below water table is in compression. Now, the held water is the retained water in the pores which cannot move under the influence of gravitational force. This water can be adsorbed water if the soil is clay. In case of clay soils, adsorbed water is held by electrical charges possessed by the minerals of the soil. The electrically attached water is also called hygroscopic water. For coarse-grained soils, the amount of adsorbed water is negligible or zero. Sometimes water molecules travel in upward direction in the soil, even against gravitational forces. It seems contrary to our belief, but we can see the similar effect when we immerse the edge of a cloth or a piece of paper into the water. Both cloth and paper will gradually become moist and wet up to some height above the water level. It happens because of a phenomenon called the capillarity or capillary effect. Capillary effect is the ability of a liquid to flow in narrow spaces without the assistance of external forces. The rise in water is called capillary water. To understand the capillary effect in soils, we can compare the voids present between the soil grains with a very small diameter glass tubes called capillary tubes. Because these voids are interconnected and form a channel of tube-like structure which is comparable to the capillary tubes. Although the channel formed by these interconnected soil pores are not circular in cross-section like the capillary tube, but still the comparison is useful to understand the phenomena of water rise in soils against gravity. Let's say the diameter of the glass tube is d and its one end is immersed in water. If the diameter of the tube is sufficiently small, we would notice the water has risen to some height above the free water surface. The forces that pull the water up into the tube above the free water surface are known as capillary forces. At the point where molecules of water and molecules of glass tube meet each other, there is a molecular attraction between them. This molecular attraction between unlike particles is called adhesion force. Because of this adhesion force, the water is pulled up into a meniscus. There is also a molecular attraction between the like particles, which is called cohesion force. This cohesion force causes the surface tension in the water, and because of that, water molecules pull each other up into the glass tube. Let's say because of adhesion and cohesion forces, water is pulled up into the glass tube up to a height hc. hc denotes height of capillary rise. We can see at the equilibrium condition, the surface tension is trying to pull the water column up into the tube, and at the same time, water's own weight is trying to pull it down. So, the water column inside the tube is in tension. If we look at the stress distribution in water, the water at the surface is at atmospheric pressure. Below the water surface, pressure becomes compressive because water's own weight, and it increases linearly with the depth. We know pressure at any depth in the water is a unit weight of water multiplied by the depth of the point of consideration. Now water inside the tube above the water surface is in tension. So the pressure inside the water is negative, that is less than atmospheric pressure. We call it capillary pressure. From the laws of hydrostatic, the pressure at any point in the water inside the tube at any height h above the free water surface is given as negative for the negative pressure, unit weight of water multiplied by the height of the water up to that point. Capillary pressure also increases linearly with the height inside the tube. The surface tension that pulls the water column up, capital T, acts along tube's perimeter at an angle alpha, which is known as contact angle. The force that acts downward and pulls the water column down is the weight of water column itself of height hc. Now writing the equation of equilibrium, the upward force is the vertical component of the surface tension P cos alpha over the whole circumference of the tube 2 pi d by 2, and that is equal to the weight of this water column, which is unit weight of water multiplied by volume of the water column, that is area multiplied by height of the column hc, and area is pi d square by 4. We can write it as this. This is the height up to which the water will rise in a small diameter capillary tube. A soil mass also consists of a number of interconnected voids that act as capillary tubes of varying diameter. And because of the capillary effect, water in the soil rises above the water table in these voids up to some height. The water present in the soil pores below the water table is in compression and pore water pressure is positive. The water that arose above the water table because of capillary effect is in tension and pore water pressure is negative. We can see in the equation that height of capillary rise is inversely proportional to the diameter of the tube. Smaller the diameter of the tube, greater will be the height of the water column in the tube. In soils, generally as the grain size decreases, the size of voids or pores also decreases. These small sized pores develop narrow tube-like structures that act as capillary tubes of small diameter, and that result in high rise of capillary water in case of fine-grained soils. Conversely, coarse-grained soils with large grains would enclose larger voids between soil particles, and height of capillary rise in such soils will be small. The important point to note here is that capillary rise is dependent on pore size, not on grain size. We should also keep in mind that a soil mass can have different pore size distributions in different deposits of a same soil. Even a soil with all its particles of similar size, that is a uniformly graded soil, can have different pore size distributions in its different deposits. And because of that, different soil deposits may yield different capillary rise. We should also note that because of the rise of the capillary water, soil does not necessarily get fully saturated. Even at a small heights above the free water surface, the degree of saturation may be below 100% for many soils, and saturation is even lower at higher elevations. We know voids are not like capillary tubes. They are irregular in shape and size. Also, they are not necessarily continuous and interconnected, and may not even be vertical, because the voids are created by a random assemblage of soil grains. When water rises in a soil from water table, the lower part of the soil that is close to the water table may become fully saturated. But in the upper part, that is at higher elevation, water fills only the narrowest voids, and relatively large voids will remain occupied by air. Based on this observation, the rise of capillary water in the soil, the groundwater may be divided into different zones. First is the bottommost part of the soil that is fully saturated and is submerged under the groundwater. Let's say the maximum capillary rise in the soil above the water table is up to the height, say hc. Then the second zone is above the water table, up to which the capillary water completely saturates the soil. Above this zone, water will rise only in the small and narrow voids, and large voids may not allow the water to rise. This way, water may go up to the maximum height of capillary rise, HC. This is the third zone, and it is partially saturated zone. Soil above these zones may also contain some water molecules trapped in the voids. Such retained water in the voids of the soil is called contact water. Water may reach into this zone because of surface infiltration or because of water table fluctuation. Capillary water arises in the soil because it experiences an upward pull on its molecules from the soil particles. Hence, an equal and opposite pull is also experienced on the soil particles in the downward direction. This downward force will pull the soil grains together, and intergranular pressure is developed. Hence, we can say the capillary effect increases the intergranular pressure, which in turn increases the effective stress in soils. We know effective stress is the stress transferred at the point of contact of soil particles. As the height of the water table increases and saturates the soil, the meniscus formed by the capillary action of water is removed. The generated tension in the water turns zero, so is the increased intergranular pressure. So, effective stress is reduced. If we look at it mathematically, we know that effective stress is equal to the total stress minus pore water pressure. Below the groundwater table, the pore water is in compression and pore water pressure is positive. When pore water is above the water table, it is in tension and pore water pressure is negative. By solving, this expression becomes greater than that of when water is in compression. So clearly, the effective stress has increased above the water table because of the negative pore water pressure or capillary pressure created by capillary rise. This can be understood by a phenomenon of fine sand when it exhibits different strength under different moisture conditions when it is applied with the same load. When we enter into a beach, first thing we encounter is the dry sand. We will notice that it is difficult to walk on the dry sand, and sand has a difficulty supporting our load. But when we move closer to the coastline, soil starts to become wet because of the capillary rise of the water into the soil. We will notice that this soil patch is relatively stiff and it is easier to walk on. It happens because the capillary water temporarily increases the effective stress in the soil, and soil can withstand relatively higher loads without much deformations. Now, when we move even closer to the water, or even go inside the water, or when the water itself comes up, we may feel the sinking of ground again. This is because seawater completely saturates the soil and breaks the capillarity that causes to lose the acquired strength. The capillary effect gives the sand soil an apparent cohesion between its molecules. These capillary forces do not exist if the sand is totally dry or totally saturated. Because of the same reason, we can excavate the soil with a steep cut in a moist sand. But it is impossible to do so if the soil is totally dry or totally saturated. This stability in fine sands and silts is a temporary phenomenon, and it lasts only till the capillary water and capillary forces exist. Capillarity gets removed if the sun shines bright and causes all the capillary water to evaporate and make the soil dry, or if rainfall occurs and saturates the whole soil mass. We understand that soil voids form a very complex and intricate network. Prediction of capillary rise in such a complex network by comparing it with a capillary tube may be faulty and may not even be accurate. So, if possible, we should rely on direct observation of the ground for the capillary rise. Still, a formula has been suggested for approximating the capillary rise. Capillarity also has many other effects like bulking of sand, frost heave, or siphoning of water. If you like elementary engineering videos,
so very good explanation. So again, it depends on the formation of the soil, okay, deposits. Even though clay soil have the capillarity, again the formation and the voids and so on, it depends, okay. So it's really explained very well. So with that, I'm going to stop today. So I'm going very slowly so that you can understand this subject well. So that's the reason I'm going very slowly and showing some videos too, okay, after the class.